In North Carolina, there is a really, I mean, this Senate race may determine the balance of the Senate. There's a Democrat there, Kay Hagan, who is, I guess, what you'd expect from a North Carolina Democrat. She's certainly not particularly progressive, but she is a Democrat. She is holding that seat. Not much to say about her, frankly. I think, she's done some good things. She's done some bad things. Very much what you'd expect for a Democrat in North Carolina. And she is being challenged by a guy named Thom Tillis, who just won the primary for the right to take her on in the general election in North Carolina. Now, as you'd expect, this guy is a far-right, extremist, Tea Party, every bad, negative thing you can imagine kind of guy. But there's something about him, something that he hasn't been as public in this race about as he was a couple of years ago. And some tape has surfaced of him outlining his vision for how to deal with people on public assistance. And you'll notice in this tape, he's saying he's speaking more freely about it because he's not in the middle of a campaign. And in a campaign, well, maybe you just can't be such a complete and utter scumbag. Let's listen to what Thom Tillis had to say.
But what we have to do is find a way to divide and conquer the people who are on assistance. We have to show respect for that woman who has cerebral palsy and had no choice in her condition, that needs help and that we should help. And we need to get those folks to look down at these people who choose to get into a condition that makes them dependent on the government and say at some point, you're on your own. We may end up taking care of those babies, but we're not going to take care of you. And we've got to start having that serious discussion. It won't happen next year. Wrong time, because it's going to be politically charged. One of the reasons.
That's 2012. This clip is from 2011. Go ahead.
That's why I may never run for another elected office. It's because some of these things may just get me railroaded out of town. But in 2013, I honestly believe that we have to do that.
All right, so let's look at that tape right there for a second. So let's just break down a few things about this. Number one, and I think it becomes increasingly clear that there is a psychology of abuse and domination behind the right's relentless assault on the social safety net, on people who need assistance, people who need opportunity, people who need support, which incidentally, as we know, is everybody, because there's not a single person in this country who isn't benefiting from some type of government program or service. And in fact, the people that Republicans go to bat for all the time, and of course, Democrats go to bat for regularly as well, live off of endless forms of government subsidy, government support, and don't have accountability for their criminal actions, as in the case of Wall Street, or absolutely minimal accountability, as in the case of Silicon Valley, which is maybe what we'll still talk with Mark about. So think of that mentality when you think of this quote, when you listen to this clip. And then secondly, look what he's doing there. He's saying within the circle of people who are on assistance and within the circle of people who are dealing with these things, they should be, he said, divided and conquered. So if you're on cerebral palsy and you have a justification, which maybe we can perhaps throw you a few crumbs, your energy should not be in feeling dignity in your life, advancing yourself, and helping your community. Your emphasis should be on, well, I need it, but these other people who are my neighbors, my friends, my former colleagues, maybe my current colleagues, they're scum. They suck. So he wants to drag some of those people into the same mentality that they're coming from on the whole. And I'll just say finally, to kind of wrap this up for the moment, and then we'll go into it more obviously. But, I've spoken openly on this show before about my upbringing and some of the things that I had to deal with in terms of serious financial instability. And at times, knowing that housing wasn't a given in a certain situation. Having heat wasn't a given in a certain situation. And when we listen to these clips and when we see this policy agenda, we need to start calling it just relentlessly and systemically exactly what it is. And watching Paul Ryan try to scramble and reach back into some playbook from Jack Kemp and all this nonsense, and even just compassionate conservatism as an umbrella through which to try to push his sociopathic budget. When you listen to this guy, remember that is the real voice of Paul Ryan. If Paul Ryan was being honest, this would be what he was saying. And then remember that maybe you've dealt with these issues personally, as I have, but also be sure that you know and have been around many people that even if they're not owning up to it or being honest about their experience, that's one of the reasons I've started speaking more openly about certain parts of my life, is because we don't say it. We don't put it on the table. And then there isn't a public discourse about it, and the immediacy of it isn't felt. And this type of sociopathic comment, which sure is getting condemned, it will make the rounds, but we're not taking in the full gravity of what he's saying. I mean, there is nothing about this that's any less offensive than what Todd Akin said about rape. And I don't mean that to minimize what Todd Akin said about rape. I'm saying both of what they said is absolutely disgusting and reveals a grotesque mindset that is pushing major policy initiatives in this country.